Hi everyone. Today, I've picked out some great stories for you. And so, let's begin. All work and little to no pay makes me a very petty boy. A good 6-7 years ago I landed my first permanent minimum wage role in a call center, UK, for an up-and-coming energy supplier. All the usual promises were made: progression, benefits, blah blah blah. After completing training I hit the ground running, collecting the third highest bonus the company ever paid out, second being me, first being my good mate by a long chalk. All is well at first, passed my 3-month probation and 2, lots of back patting, all that good stuff. And I'll pat you on the back if you subscribe to my channel, my friend. My friend cottoned on as to how I'm earning my bonus. KPI was limited call time, high volume intake and call quality, and was on board and competing with me within 2 months, seeing who could edge the other at bonus time. Sometimes I'd win, sometimes he would, but no one else came within a mile for a solid 15 months. This, as you can imagine, drew a lot of speculation as to why we had managed to outperform everyone who'd been there a good 3 years more than us, but as we weren't even near bending the rules, there was nothing they could do but smile through gritted teeth as we collected bonuses, putting us in management pay brackets. After a while I was given the opportunity to manage a team in the complaints department, as my efficiency and general customer management skills had clearly paid off, to which I naively accepted. Little did I know, it would be on the provision that I would still accept my base pay. After 5 months or so of dredging through a backlog of complaints, most of which had been escalated to the Energy Ombudsman, I had noticed that my pay was lacking by comparison to what I would make in standard customer services and approached the manager for that department to discuss my concerns. This is where it all goes to shit. Said manager very smugly replies, well, we couldn't have you and friend earning enough to employ another 2 members of staff, it was bad for morale, and took the competition out of it for everyone else. I took this on the chin initially and carried on, but it began to fester, especially as I was seeing my savings begin to stall, and the fear of them beginning to dwindle sunk in. Luckily at this point a member of my new team had sat me down, as this conversation had gotten round the various floors and departments. Manager was so proud of herself and told me that she in fact was a union representative and what they were doing was surely wrong. After discussing this with the union, rereading my contract and establishing that one of the very explicit terms of my contract was my being availed to a bonus for meeting the criteria, this then began discussions about how my contract had now been breached and resolution was needed. I forgot to mention that the reason I was so good at my job is because when faced with a problem, I am meticulous to the point of being pedantic and capable of keeping my cool even when someone is screaming at me. I proposed to the same manager that the months I had worked in my new role were still under the criteria of my old contract, as I'd not been provided a new one, and as you can imagine it was all you agreed to it, nothing to be done, etc., until I advised that I had sought legal advice and had a strong case for breach of contract, which could be supported by login times, area accesses and so on. Long story short, the quality assessment team had to then work through what was by this point 8 months of my new workload, treat it with the same diligence and standards as an average customer advisor, and calculate my bonus accordingly. In my previous role I was bringing home approximately 500 extra a month. With these new findings, I was owed $72.30. I got every last penny after a fight and left the company a couple of months afterwards. Not so smug anymore. Adabin pointed out I missed the petty revenge part, not as meticulous as I thought, lol. Manager ended up losing their job due to the mistake. Perfect revenge. I love that they owed you more money than in your other position. You really handed their asses back to them. In a similar vein, long story short, I was denied an annual raise despite being fantastic at my job because the boss didn't like when a woman told him no. I fought it tooth and nail, but ended up losing the fight. I then handed in my notice and reminded HR with copies of all the documentation of where I was owed almost 3 years' worth of PTO that would only be paid out on my departure of the company. That payout was much larger than any annual salary increase, and the torrent of people who left the company after me, citing the bad boss as the reason he was Irish goodbye it not too long afterwards. Whoa, was there some sexual harassment as well? Oh, it was a total boys club. Like, let me give you an example. We had a company offsite, almost mandatory for everyone to attend. A newer hire, woman, went with a group of employees to an after-work party club and was dancing on the table with 5-6 other people who were also employees. A man from our company took a video of it, specifically an upskirt video of the new hire dancing. And then he posted it on the company Dropbox so everyone could see her panties. It was taken down a few hours later. The guy who took and shared the upskirt video was given a slap on the wrist, asking him not to upload videos to the whole company without permission. The woman got fired for misconduct. Want one better? The sales team guys had a habit of drugging female employees during these mandatory off-sites with Rohypnol. And nothing was done about it because they couldn't prove it was an employees drugging other employees. After insulting my team and myself, you want me to help tie your pool to the car. In college I used to work part-time at a popular retail chain in Canada. Let's call it Canadian Fire. On very hot summer Saturday we had a run on pools. Everyone and their brother wanted something they could fill with water to sit in, and the rush started at 8 a.m. As you can imagine, the hard plastic cheap pools were flying off the shelves, starting with the first customer through the door. Like any college kid, I was hungover from the night before and just trying to make it through the day. My girlfriend at the time was a cashier and she suggested we get a kiddie pool to sit in when we got off work later that night. So, I snagged one of the last pools and was dragging it to the back to keep until my lunch when I could buy it. A customer, let's call him Huge Ass, saw me grabbing the last pool and demanded I bring it back so that he can purchase it. I told him no, I was setting it aside for myself and there were plenty of those pools in a box. He was more than welcome to purchase. Well, Hugh went bananas. Started swearing, cussing, and yelling for a manager. Finally, the manager on duty heard the noise, came over, and very begrudgingly told me the customer was entitled to the pool because I hadn't purchased it yet. I get it, and up until this point I was mad, mostly because I couldn't chill with my girl in her bikini drinking beer in the pool, but in this case the customer was right. And then it happened. The customer looked at me, smiled a Cheshire cat smile, and said the customer is always right, which is why you work here, and I don't. I saw Ed, but with my manager there I couldn't say much. Hugh then looked me dead in the eye and said, I bet you want to help me carry this out to my car and tie it to my roof. I stifle my anger and carry Hugh's pool out to his car. Here comes the petty revenge. I ask you to please get in the car and put all the windows down so that I can safely tie the pool to his roof. I take some of that really strong twine you use for packing and proceed to wrap the pool with twine through the windows, all four, and secure the pool to the roof. As I tied the last knot, real knots, nothing easy to undo, Hugh looks at me and says don't feel badly, I always win as he drives off. I wish I was there when Huge Ass got home and tried to open his car doors, only to find I tied all four of them shut. Not sure how his very large frame was ever able to get out of the car, but every time I see a car with something tied to its roof, I wonder if someone else just got their petty revenge. Amazing red lol. I'm right beside a Canadian Fire right now and reading this made me giggle. Oh, I have plenty of Canadian Fire stories. I ended up working 8 years in the sports department through high school and college summers. It was a great place to work, not sure about now though. I've always heard it be referred to as crappy tire. LMAO. Yup. For all non-Canadians, well, for anyone not from Ontario. We actually have a province-mandated store to buy beer from. It used to be called the Brewers Retail, but so many people called it the beer store they changed their name. I love the beer store. If you want to see what it looked like in its glory days, watch Strange Brew. Just don't ask for an Elsinore. Brilliant, great way to get back at him without it being blown back to you. I hope he struggled for a while trying to get out and sorry you missed out on alone time with the girlfriend. Oh, we had alone time. It was just sweatier than it should have been. I was hoping you punctured the pool while tying it to the roof. HD did this to me with a Christmas tree one year, not on purpose, and we had to Dukes of Hazzard out the window. Now I keep scissors in the car. That guy is a huge ass and deserved it. When he got home, he had a humongous problem. This was before cell phones were popular, so all I can think was he sat in the driveway honking his horn until someone came out. She faked her injury. We had a coworker who always attempted to get out of doing just about every single task at our store. She had been there for about 15 years, so the managers just coddled her along because if they pushed her too hard, they knew she'd make a huge scene or file a lawsuit. It was absolutely ridiculous what this woman would get away with and it greatly irritated all the employees. She came to work one day, complaining that she had sprained her ankle at home and would now require a chair to sit on between waiting on customers at the register. It's important to note that she did not have a doctor's note for this ailment. It also meant that she could no longer assist restocking shelves on truck day, nor participate in removing sales tags and putting up new sales tags, which are huge, time-consuming tasks for the entire staff. She'd just sit on her throne as we called it and read her trashy romance novels all day long when she didn't have customers to ring up. Pretty cozy setup, right? The rest of us were out on the floor working our tails off while she just sat there reading and munching on whatever snacks she brought with her. That day. After about 2.5 weeks of her whining about her still sore ankle, one day her husband was really late in picking her up after her shift, so she just gathered up her handbag, books and put away her throne. As she is walking to the door to leave, she casually states to me, I'm tired of waiting around, so just tell my husband that I walk down to McDonald's. I'm hungry, so he can just pick me up there. McDonald's is about 3 blocks down the road. Quite a distance for a person with a bad ankle to walk. 20 minutes later, her husband arrived and asked the store manager where she is. The store manager had no idea, so he asked me. I told him the truth. She said she was hungry, so she walked down to McDonald's to get something to eat. She told me to tell you to pick her up there. As the husband exits the store manager turns around and furiously grabs her phone, throws it in his office, locks it and announces, "We're done playing this game." She never got her throne back after that incident, and we all rejoiced when she finally quit a month later. Update edit. She had a royal hissy fit the next day over losing her throne. Pun intended. The manager put her on a 90-day probation period for this stunt. I wasn't at work when they hit the fan, but my coworkers all said they could hear her screaming from inside the manager's office. They were all laughing when she finally emerged from her tongue lashing in the manager's office. She was very quiet and moped all day, trying to gain sympathy from the customers until the manager stopped her by stating, in front of the customers, "If you're healthy enough to walk 3 blocks to McDonald's, you're healthy enough to do your job standing like everyone else. Any more comments on this and I'm sending you home." She was so furious that she called in sick for the rest of the week. Finally, the store manager told her that if she didn't report to work for her next shift, he'd demand a doctor's note for her 4-day absence or fire her. He also reminded her that she was on probation, so she'd better get healed real quick. She came to work the next day, miraculously healed. It was a miracle. Next, the store manager assigned her to work some closing shifts with me, because she always refused them before. The manager told me in confidence that he did this because he knew I wouldn't allow her to slack off on the closing shift duties. He was correct. During the entire shift, I kept reminding her of the duties she had to complete before she left, and she kept telling me that she's just going to leave when her husband comes to get her. Fine. But only if you've completed all of your job. We can both stay here all night if that's what it takes. The choice is yours. I'm not the one on probation. When she realized that she wasn't going to get around me, she finally got busy and again. Another miracle. She completed all her tasks before closing. 2 weeks later, she gave notice. The queen finally gave up her throne. Edit 2. Thus, so we're clear, the queen's throne was a simple folding chair. It sat too low to run the register from a seated position, so she had to stand to ring customers out. Edit 3. The queen could have used her throne to help us out by at least restocking candy at the register counter, but she refused, saying it was too much for her to move her throne around like that. We offered to move it for her, but she claimed she didn't want to disrupt our work. She enjoyed dictating orders from her throne. She would constantly call us to the front like we were her personal servants, knowing she was disrupting our work. "I'm thirsty. Get me a Coke out of the cooler. I'm hungry. Grab me a bag of chips and a couple Slim Jims. I'm bored. Go see if the New People magazine came in yet." On the magazine rack, if anyone found some task she could do while sitting, she would drag the task out all day and still never finish it. Now mind you, these were extremely simple tasks that a normal person could have completed them in 10-15 minutes, but not the queen. The queen, sitting all day on her throne, wasn't the real issue here. We were more than accommodating with her constant disrupting demands. It was her flat-out refusal to do any work at all. The train story reminded me of when I was traveling in Japan and saw this girl selling lunchboxes on a station platform in the spring, and she must have been absolutely frozen because I was cold inside my jacket and her uniform looked much lighter and it was windy. She probably couldn't leave her location, so I just went to a vending machine and bought her a can of warm coffee and dropped it off with her as my train was leaving. She might not have been able to drink it right then, but hopefully it helped a bit. Was nice and warm to even hold. She was pretty surprised. It's nice to be the good guy. That's how I was raised. I'm friendly and cordial to all around me, but have no problem not being so if provoked into a change of personality. I would usually feel like I let my mom down when I have to be like that to this day. And I'm 57. Being a good person is easy. It takes too much negative energy to be unkind. She had a royal hissy fit the next day over losing her throne, pun intended. The manager put her on a 90-day probation period for this stunt. I wasn't at work when they hit the fan, but my coworkers all said they could hear her screaming from inside the manager's office, and they were all laughing when she finally emerged from her tongue lashing in the manager's office. She was very quiet, moped all day, trying to gain sympathy from the customers until the manager stopped her by stating, in front of the customers, "If you're healthy enough to walk 3 blocks to McDonald's, you're healthy enough to do your job standing like everyone else. Any more comments on this and I'm sending you home." She was so furious that she called in sick for the rest of the week. Finally, the store manager called and told her that if she didn't report to work for her next shift, he'd demand a doctor's note for her 4-day absence or fire her. He also reminded her that she was on probation, so she'd better get healed real quick. She came to work the next day, miraculously healed. It was a miracle. Next, the store manager assigned her to work some closing shifts with me, because she always refused them before. The manager told me in confidence that he did this because he knew I wouldn't allow her to slag off on the closing shift duties. He was correct during the entire shift. I kept reminding her of the duties she had to complete before she left and she kept telling me that she's just going to leave when her husband comes to get her. Fine. But only if you've completed all of your job. We can both stay here all night if that's what it takes. The choice is yours. I'm not the one on probation. When she realized that she wasn't going to get around me, she finally got busy again. Another miracle. She completed all her tasks before closing. 2 weeks later, she gave notice. The queen finally gave up her throne. Oh, this video has come to an end. If you want more such cool stories, then go to one of the many following videos.